I got a question for you.
What's up?
You think it's fair to say that Tate Martell is the Mambo number 5 of college football?
Explain.
A little bit of A&M in my life, a little bit of Ohio by my side, a little bit of...
Oh my God. Hey everybody, welcome to the Gameday Breakfast Podcast. I'm Spencer, and this is my co-host Daryl.
Going on, this is a pilot.
Yeah, this is gonna be us talking about college football, and that's all it's gonna be. Be prepared for
absolutely nothing else.
Be prepared for the warmest of hot takes and poorly formulated opinions.
I was hoping you would say the warmest of hot cakes.
Warmest of hot cakes. Yeah.
That sounds pretty good right now.
Speaking of hot cakes, what's your favorite breakfast, Daryl?
My favorite breakfast would not be a hot cake. It's probably, that's actually really tough. It's sort of combinations. I have to have, if there's any time where I can have hash browns on a plate and also some form of ham, maybe if they're together, that's probably the ideal. But you can't go wrong with a really good breakfast burrito. That's kind of tough.
Yeah, I agree with you about the hash browns and the ham, because my favorite breakfast is...
I already know where this is going.
So you go to Waffle House and you get the cheesesteak hash brown bowl, and you get everything you can put in hash browns except for tomatoes and jalapenos, and you top it with chili and gravy.
Call it the fever dream.
It's delicious.
I'm sentient if you don't eat it quick enough.
It's
the worst. Watching you eat that thing is like watching old people play tennis. It's just like, oh, please, can we stop?
I mean, have you tried it though?
No. Well, my nose tried it when it sat across from me, and I wanted to vomit until I couldn't see anymore. Okay, so now that we've established breakfasts, so let's introduce ourselves and our favorite teams. My name is Daryl. I graduated from Texas A&M, so therefore I am a huge Texas A&M fan. I have something called battered Aggie syndrome, which is basically, we call it BAD. It basically means that no matter how good things are looking, you're confident that your team is somehow going to blow it. And you're always prepared for a loss. So I am not feeling great about this year, but at the same time, I'm also feeling great. I'm ready to be broken again. So that's my favorite team. You said here, the teams we dislike. I don't know. I go back and forth on LSU when they're playing. When LSU is playing the right team, I always root for them. Obviously, when they play Texas this year, I hope they stomp a mud hole into their faces. But I don't know. LSU, I go back and forth on when we play them. I hate them. Beyond that, I don't know. I kind of just hate when teams feel overrated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like teams that, they're the savior of the SEC. Like they're going to be the ones to take down Bama, and then they get blown out. Like Mississippi State and Ole Miss like 4 years ago.
They had some episodes there where they were supposed to do that back when Dak was really hot, wasn't he?
Yeah. It's just, it fizzles out. So.
And Ole Miss did it one time, and then they broke their field goal. They did it twice. Yeah, they did it twice. That was back when Alabama had what was that kid's name?
Coker,
the guy,
whatever his name was.
No, not Coker. The other guy that all he could do was throw the deep ball.
Sims.
Yeah. He was pretty bulky, and he could take it, 6 or 7 yards if he needed to.
And he could run a little bit.
And he had the deep ball because Saban liked to give him the flea flicker, which is very effective play that every team should run, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because you never see it coming. You never see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm ready to introduce myself. I am Spencer. I went to Lamar University in Beaumont for a year, and I didn't go anymore because I was not good at being in college. Anyway, my favorite team is LSU. Go Tigers. And that go is spelled Geaux for any of those that are curious.
No one knew.
Yeah. And it will be no surprise to anyone watching and or listening to this podcast that knows me personally. Team that I don't like is Alabama. I don't like them. I have their arrival with LSU. And I don't like him. I know disclaimer for people who know me, I know in the past I was a little bit irrational about that stuff, and it was just, oh, they sucked because I didn't like them. No, they're one of the best programs in the country. They have been for a while. I dislike them because they're a rival with my main team, and I'm tired of seeing them do so good. That's what it is.
Brother, it's a good thing, brother. I was sitting down for that because that was a shocker. I was not expecting you to say. I was expecting anybody, but not. Whew. Man, okay. It's going to be hard to move on from that. I guess we are. Did we get everything we wanted to cover in our intro there? Is that good? Should we move on to our next topic? Okay, cool. I think we should. Here's my crazy theory. I have newspaper articles and sort of like strings and tags across my wall. I lost weeks of sleep on this. I believe, this is very controversial, I'm sure, I believe that OU could be the next Splin era A&M. And what I mean by that is, I believe that, and I should actually preface this entirely with this, I think OU is going to be a great team next year. I think having Jalen Hurts be the starter was the right decision. He's the veteran. He's played a mountain of games and actually a handful of huge games. Not to mention 3 national championships. This is what he's doing, and this is the recall. There is a formula here that is very reminiscent to me of a time when a young Kyler Murray left A&M, and shortly after that, Kyle Allen left. Now, let me sort of go from the bottom up. The reason I say this, and Spencer, you can chime in if any of this sort of resonates with you, or if you kind of see my point.
Yeah, I'm just listening.
OU, OU is in a good position because of the veteran player that they've just got. Have this guy, Spencer Rattler, who came in with like a 5-star quarterback, I believe, the year he was recruited. And of course, when you're that big of a quarterback, you're going to get a lot of promises. And Lincoln Riley has acknowledged in the past that there's a lot that he was expecting out of this kid, and there were lots of rumors that there were promises made about, you come here, you're going to get the starting job. And of course, we all know. I mean, there's coach whisperings of, how can you possibly get this big guy to come to your school? And I'm sure there had to have been a lot of that. So Jalen Hurts comes in, presumably after Spencer Rattler has been promised the starting job, and now Spencer Rattler's in a bit of a position. Now, granted, he's a true freshman. I mean, he has all the time in the world, and if this will not be a problem if he simply has a head on his shoulders and understands that his time will come. And because injuries happen, and you need to be backup if you need to be ready to be a backup if need be. Mm-hmm. But to me, go ahead.
So you think Spencer Rattler, if he's not patient, could turn into a Tate Martell type?
Right, and that's sort of the feeling that I get, and it's not just to say it's not just Rattler and Hurts that are in this equation. There's a lot of things that can happen because number one, you have the expectation that comes with being an OU quarterback. You look at a situation where at A&M, Kyle Allen wasn't getting the job done. And so you get Kyler Murray in for a game or two or a quarter or two. Sort of Kevin Sumlin juggles the situation. There's all this expectation because of Johnny Manziel being there and this huge expectation of a Kevin Sumlin player being a great quarterback. You see the exact same thing at OU. Now, granted, Lincoln Riley is not Kevin Sumlin. They're not the same. Things are very different. But very similar chemicals in that equation. Plus, you toss in the fact that they basically at OU just lost their entire offensive line. They're having to sort of start from scratch from that. And they lost Hollywood Brown, their best wide receiver. The expectations of 2 Heismans back-to-back. They did I just found out actually when I was looking this up, they're talking about doing a 30 for 30 on Jalen Hurts' story, which is great. I mean, he's a great kid. But when you get all this media and you get all this expectation and all these Heisman whisperings, and then you get a potentially unhappy young quarterback that's sitting behind somebody else that just sort of came in and stole the job. 1 or 2 games go wrong this season. And not to mention, you look at a Texas team that is favored to potentially be making the top 10, if not the playoff. The Big 12 is not the best. This is obviously something where with Kevin Sumlin's case, he was in the SEC facing ridiculous defenses on a week out basis. But in the Big 12, it's not necessarily as much of a case, but losing to Texas is not going to sit well. So I think a few key things happen. You maybe some issues where Jalen Hurts maybe isn't making some throws. Rattler comes in, Rattler comes out. you look at a situation where it's very, very easy for this to get out of control, and it could be nasty down the road with transfers and things along those lines. Do I think it will happen? If I had to be a betting man, no, I don't think it will. But I just wanted to point out that those things are kind of in there.
Yeah, I mean, I see that completely. There's obviously a difference between, the SEC and the Big 12. The SEC, great defenses, historically great defenses, and they don't really play defense in the Big 12 much, which, I'm fine with. I mean, we're both obviously fans of Big 12. I mean, SEC teams, excuse me. But, I like big defensive struggles, but there's also sometimes where all right, let's throw this thing all over the yard and let's run up the score and it's going to be like 70-67 and both quarterbacks are going to throw for like 500 yards. I like those games too because they're exciting, they're fun to watch.
Of course, yeah, and that's what the Big 12 to me is sort of all about. And I mean, yeah, we talk trash with SEC versus Big 12, but I think for the players and for the coaches, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, that bias is kind of there. So I think you're going to see a lot more offensive risk taken in the Big 12. It's not only with just the amount of, I think you're going to want some of the more big explosive offensive guys on that end as well, as opposed to the SEC where defense is sort of king.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. And
yeah. So, I mean, call me crazy. Like I said, I mean, I acknowledge that this may be a bit of a stretch, but, like I said, from being an A&M fan and sort of seeing that whole thing boil down, if it's not handled well, and again, I like Lincoln Riley as a coach, but a couple of things go wrong and a couple of wrong decisions are made, and then suddenly they could potentially be in some deep water with that.
Yeah, I mean, the similarities are definitely there. And I'm pretty sure you could draw that same similarity about any quarterback room in like any conference. But because you have the experience, you were obviously at A&M when Coach Sumlin was there and you see these type of things happen. It makes sense. It makes sense to me. But I'm rooting for Jalen Hurts. I like him a lot.
Of course. Yeah, great kid, and I mean, I've only heard good things about him, but and to me, what the most interesting part was just the whole Spencer Rattler coming in, being this huge quarterback on top of all the Heisman expectations, on top of all, what could happen if things don't go right. Because Jalen Hurts, as good as he was, obviously was surrounded by a lot of talent at Alabama, which helped him out quite a bit. But he did struggle. I mean, there were stretches during both of his times there where he really did struggle to pass to get the ball downfield, to throw things on target. So he, I mean, that was there. I mean, would you agree with that?
Oh, I agree for sure. But I mean, last year coming in for Tua after he got hurt in the SEC championship game and saving Alabama's season.
Clutch.
Even though they got beat like a drum in the national championship, but still, I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is good. You don't go 26-2 in your time as a starter, and you're not good, and so I think he's gonna have a good year at Oklahoma. I don't know if he's gonna win the Heisman, but he'll definitely be in the talk.
100%.
He might make it to New York, but I don't know if he'll win.
Yeah, and I mean, if he does, I mean, great. I mean, for a school to have 3 like that, I mean, what is the record? Isn't it just 2? Has 3 ever happened before?
I'm not sure, but it would be something if Jalen Hurts wins the Heisman and Oklahoma, and then he goes on to the NFL draft and gets picked number 1, because Oklahoma would have 3 in a row Heisman winners and number 1 draft picks.
Yeah.
That would be just an anomaly. But that's the beauty of college football. Wacky stuff gets to happen.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking it up right now to see. Heisman trophies, 2 winners in a row, almost 2 and 3 times. Hit it home. Okay, cool. Let's see. 2. 1 and 2 years in a row. That's interesting. Actually, I feel like I knew that, but never acknowledged it. Has anyone done 3?
I don't know if anyone's ever done 3.
I don't know if that's ever happened.
I don't think it has.
I don't think so either. But that would be unprecedented, I mean, that's one of those things that would sort of never get beat,
Yeah, I mean, this is the 150th year of college football. And, the beauty of college football is that, records in other sports that would seem unbreakable get broken all the time in college football because, different players come in and out, programs change, coaches change schools,
100%.
Yeah. So and this is also the 100th year of the NFL. You don't see people shattering records in the NFL. Like they break records by one stat. Like if so and so threw 50 touchdowns, this guy threw 51. There's no such thing as shattering a record in pro sports anymore.
Yeah, and that's when you get on those levels of greatness. The individual differences are so slim.
Yeah.
And that's why the NFL I think is so great, because all these teams are on a very similar level. And the winner is usually only like marginally better. The Super Bowl winner is usually marginally better than anybody else in the playoff that year.
Yeah, but also the beauty of college football is that you get Cinderella stories.
Oh yeah, I will not disagree with you there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You get to 7 overtimes, 1 second left, hurl the end zone.
Yeah,
so
crazy stuff like that. So a little something I kind of want to talk about has to do with like conference realignment.
Tell me about it, brother.
And that's the UConn Huskies. They are next season in 2020. They're going independent, similar of Army and BYU and Notre Dame, because they're joining the Big East in all sports, but the Big East does not sponsor football. They used to back in the day, when teams like West Virginia and Syracuse and Pitt and several other teams. I think UConn was in the Big East back in the day, but they're moving from the American Athletic Conference to being independent. And we haven't really had any major conference alignment in a long time. The last major conference realignment we had was back in 2012 when Texas A&M and Mizzou moved to the SEC, and then Colorado went to the Pac-12 and Nebraska went to the Big Ten. So I think we're coming up on the point where we might start to hear rumors about big major conference realignment.
Well, and it's exciting too, because you look at times like this, and it's like, it was like if you, for me, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I always really enjoyed growing up when somebody would move from Raw to SmackDown, and it was like, oh, Rey Mysterio is going to go wrestle Triple H now. Like it was so exciting to just sort of see these new interactions. You get these new stories, and you get things like putting away the A&M Texas rivalry and making it special if they ever meet again, like in the playoff.
That game should come back, by the way.
We'll see. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it, but yeah, I mean, the realignment is interesting from a fan's perspective, because you face these new expectations and these new matchups. Now, UConn being said, I don't know a lot about UConn.
They're not the greatest football program,
big on basketball. Am I right?
They're a basketball school. Their men's and women's basketball teams have won, several championships, and the Big East is a prestigious conference in college basketball. So UConn going independent in football, I don't really think it's going to change much. Although I'm not the biggest fan of independence. Like, I think everybody should be in a conference. But
how does that work? If you dipping their toes for some sports into the Big East, but how does it work for their football? I mean, how is their schedule determined?
They would just schedule. Because schedules are put out way in advance, right? So they're obviously probably still going to play a heavily American Athletic Conference based schedule. They're probably still going to play a lot of the same teams, because schedules are put out far in advance. They're decided far in advance. But after that, you just schedule who you want, which is kind of the beauty of being an independent. Like, that's the one good thing about being independent. You can schedule whoever you want. So
I'd be drunk with power.
Yeah, but
I'd be scheduling one really good game and then a bunch of easy games.
Yeah, like I
could win that one tough one.
Yeah, but again, I think everybody should be in a conference. I don't think there should be any independents. I think there's like 5 or 6 independents. I think it's Notre Dame, UConn, Army, BYU, New Mexico State, and UMass. But UMass may have moved down to FCS. I'm not entirely positive. But I think everybody should have to be in a conference,
100%.
And it should be a conference that makes geographical sense. So your fans don't have to drive or fly hours away to get to where you're supposed to be.
For some reason, geography is not one of those things that there's a priority. For whatever reason, you'd think it'd be important, but apparently not.
Like, honestly, everybody talks about how Notre Dame should join the ACC because they play a lot of ACC teams. Honestly, I think Notre Dame should join the Big Ten because they get all their rivalry games that they already have with Michigan and Michigan State. And they're in Indiana. They're right there. So Notre Dame fans wouldn't have to go to the East Coast to get to some of these games. And the farthest game they're going to have to go to is when they play USC. But that's a rivalry game that happens every year. So, but yeah.
He's doing some preaching right now.
Yeah, I think, everybody should have to be in a conference. Obviously I have my opinions about which teams should be in which conferences, like the independents. But that's just me. I know there's differing opinions about that. I'm pretty sure, some Notre Dame fans will disagree with me, but
what I personally wish, and this may be wrong of me, but I personally really wish that the Power 5 conferences could sort of add some of these smaller teams. Like I wish the U of H's of the world and the Notre Dame's of the world, who's bad? You get the idea. Some of these higher tier FBS teams could sort of find their way into Power 5 conference, just because I think it would make scheduling each year a lot more interesting, and it would make recruiting for these schools a lot more enticing,
For sure. When talking about conference realignment, I definitely think Houston needs to join the Big 12 at some time.
That would be a perfect match.
Yeah. Their style of offense is very in line with, historically their offense is very in line with the Big 12 style of offense, and they're recruiting right there in the Big 12's background. They're in Texas, so they're recruiting against TCU and Texas Tech and Baylor. And, they'd be kind of recruiting against A&M, but, Houston's going to want a different style of player than A&M will because A&M's in the SEC, obviously. But that's just a little something I wanted to talk about. It's been a while since we've had any major realignment.
Oh, yeah. And it's super exciting because it opens up so many dours.
It definitely does.
Many things to talk about. So I guess the next thing we got to talk about is I got a little ahead of myself there. The top 25. Who's too high? Who's too low? Spencer, give me teams that are too high, and give me 2 teams that are too low.
I think 2 teams that are too high, personally for me, I think Nebraska is too high. A lot of people are real high on Nebraska right now. I think Adrian Martinez is going to have a great season. That's the quarterback at Nebraska. But they went 4-8 last year. Scott Frost is obviously a great coach.
And word right there. Yeah.
But
no, I mean, I kind of agree with you, man. I like, to be honest with you, until I saw it just now, I didn't see that they were 24. I knew they were ranked, but I assumed it was top 20. Seeing them at 24 feels about right, just because they are Nebraska. But I think this is a team to where even if they win week 1, if it's not a convincing one, they could be dropped,
Yeah. I think they should have been on the outside bubble, outside looking in. Like
an Army or a Mizzou.
Like others receiving votes, Missouri, Army, Mississippi State, Miami, Teams like that, I think they should have been outside the bubble. Another one I think is too high. I wouldn't kick them out of the rankings, but I think they're too high as Auburn. Auburn's sitting at 16. They went 8-5 last year. Jarrett Stidham has moved on, and they just named Bo Nix. He's a true freshman. They just named their start.
Where do these Auburn quarterbacks come up with their names from?
I have no idea. So I was a little excited. They have a guy there named Joey Gatewood that was going to be
come on,
real name was going to be. I thought he was going to get the starting nod, but it's Bo Nix. I think I would put them somewhere around 22, 23.
Nix sounds like a Twitter handle.
It does sound like a Twitter handle.
At Bo Nix.
Yeah.
At Lil Bo Nix.
Yeah. I don't know what his Twitter handle is. But they're a little too high for me. A team that I think is too low, and it's not really a case of too low, too high. It's just Florida beat Michigan in their bowl game last year, yet somehow Michigan is ranked one ahead of Florida. I think you just swap Michigan and Florida at 7 and 8. You make Florida
right
number 7 and Michigan.
That's the Harbaugh effect right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I would, and then another one I think is too low, honestly, is A&M. I would
like them being at 12. It's a little poetic for me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, obviously it makes sense, the whole 12th man thing. But I would put them higher. I think I would put them above Texas. I think right here at 10, 11, and 12, we have Texas, Oregon, and Texas A&M. I would put Texas A&M at 10, Oregon at 11, and Texas at 12. But that's just personally.
I would do a little thing called take those 3 and put them in front of Notre Dame.
I would also do that.
Yeah.
Notre Dame went 12-1 last year, but again, they got clapped by Clemson in the playoff game. Like, they were good, but they weren't like playoff caliber. Yeah.
It goes back to that whole a record is only so much thing. Yeah. You run a race with 12 guys second versus you run a race with 12 other guys and won't come in second. You know what I mean? It's we could go round and round on that all day. I agree with you for the most part, man. We're pretty, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of on the same page. My 2 lows. One of my 2 lows is actually Mizzou. They have that new quarterback out of his name, Kelly Bryant. Thank you. Kelly Bryant, I think, is going to be very good. Mizzou has been looking a little sharper every year.
Hot
if they could just fix that.
I think Mizzou is 8-0 going into their game against Georgia.
I mean, that would be some good TV right there. I'd be down with that. Hey, buddy, you want to go to your bed? Your nails are clacking. Yeah, because my dog's nails are a little audible, I'm sure, and a little clacky. I think Mizzou needs to be higher. They're looking a little better and better. One thing that I will say would help them out greatly is if they'd fix their camera in their stadium. I swear I can't watch a Mizzou game at home without freaking out a little bit because the camera just feels like I'm watching like Canadian football or something.
Really?
Have you ever seen it? You ever watched a Mizzou game?
I have, but I guess I didn't notice any difference.
Just go watch like the highlights of the Mizzou Kentucky game last year because it was a good game. Watch like the highlights of that game and just tell me it doesn't make you want to like tire. You just it's like way too zoomed in and they can't quite get the whole. I don't know. You'll have to take a look. If you're watching at home, go watch highlights from a Mizzou home game. So that's one of my 2 low games, or not 2 low teams. As far as who else should be higher here, I'm gonna be honest, man. I like Florida. I really like Florida. I think that they should definitely be above Michigan. And I think that they should definitely. I can't really tell you whether or not they should be above LSU because LSU is bringing so many defensive starters back with Delpit and everybody else. But I think they're going to be about the same. I think them and LSU should be at 5 and 6, no particular order, just at 5 and 6 because I don't like Ohio State that high.
Yeah.
I think when you come out of a year with Urban Meyer, change, and things are obviously exciting because you have a new coach, but things change, and they could change really well. They could go for the better, but they could also go south really fast.
You
lose it. It's sort of like if Saban left, that he may have somebody there to keep his systems and everything, but would it be the same? It's tough to say. So I don't know. I'm a little too back and forth on Ohio State. I would put them up around 7 with Michigan.
Yeah. I agree. I would probably put I would move Ohio State to where Florida is. I would move LSU up to 6, and I'd put Florida at 7, Michigan at 8, and Ohio State at 9. I would just swap those 4 teams around.
It's I don't know if we did it. I don't know if I did too. I forgot if I was doing too high or too low. I was just kind of rearranging. So I guess I was doing teams. Okay, so one overrated team now. I guess I would have said Ohio State, and my other overrated team. I don't know. It's tough. I don't want to say Georgia because Georgia is, I think, it's a team, but I will say that Georgia could potentially be Georgia's in a different mentality, I think, than Oklahoma is, because in their game last year when they played Texas, I like to sort of look at the context of the situation. If you looked at that game against Texas, obviously what Texas did was very impressive. But Georgia, if you looked at that team, they did not want to be there. They had just come off that game with Alabama. They were not there. They wanted to be in the playoff. And I think that if you have a team that can sort of do that and sort of put a game aside and be like, this doesn't matter, it's just a bowl game. That is, so I'm trying to think of a better way to say not good. That's not optimal. You don't want that.
Yeah.
You want a team that's, regardless of the circumstances, shows up. But I have no doubt that they'll get that ironed out. I don't know. Maybe a little high on Georgia. I think the top four obviously are very tight, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
Georgia has a tendency to be Georgia when it matters. So
yeah, be good all season, and then but
look, they look their most impressive when they're mad at Alabama.
Yeah, for sure.
Outside of that, they just look like a good football team.
But yeah, man. Let's get into some pick'ems. Let's see.
Hey, dude.
Let's talk about these week 0 games we got coming up. This Saturday at 9:30 from Aloha Stadium, we got Arizona at Hawaii.
Really called that Aloha Stadium?
Aloha Stadium. It's where the NFL Pro Bowl has been played a bunch of times.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Makes me happy. Okay, who you got?
Arizona.
I agree with you. I like this another quarterback whose name always escapes me, but it's Kevin Sumlin's guy that he likes. Everybody's saying everything I'm listening to about this is saying let this kid loose because he can ball. And I think that if Kevin Sumlin will sort of open up the offense and I don't want to say let this kid play call, but sort of work with him and find plays that he really likes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially against a Hawaii team that is who they are.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then I didn't want to jump forward a little bit to Thursday, the 29th.
Yeah, we're gonna come back to the big one.
Yeah, first game up, we got UCLA at Cincinnati. Who you got?
Well, let me see. One isn't it? I'm gonna go UCLA just because they are UCLA. Cincinnati might make it interesting, but I like UCLA here.
I'm actually gonna go with Cincinnati.
Okay.
Because they had a decent season last year, and I like their uniforms. I like that black and red color scheme.
Yeah.
So,
we got next. Let's see. We got Wagner and UConn.
Give me UConn.
I think I'm gonna have to go UConn too.
Yeah, I think Wagner is an FCS team, and even though UConn is not the greatest, I mean, I think it might be a good game, but again,
UConn has a superior mascot, so
yeah, I like their logo too. What about Albany and Central Michigan?
This is going to be a game that I will watch from beginning to end and be severely attentive to.
I will not be doing that.
I know, I was joking. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Albany.
Yeah.
Sure. Just because this is a Michigan team that's not Jim Harbaugh's Michigan. So
yeah. Give me the upset FCS over FBS.
Take it.
And then let's give me a ranked team. We got UCF and Florida A&M. Who you got?
UCF and Florida A&M. I'm looking for the. Here we go. Give me UCF. I think they're upset about last season, and they're going to come out and they're going to do their job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
skip that one. That's the special game. We'll come back to that. What we got here? Even that one. Do we want to go ahead and go into the Georgia Tech Clemson game?
Yeah, Georgia Tech. Yeah. Give me Clemson.
Right. This is a tough one. Are you sure you want to go Clemson? This is going to be a pretty tough one, I think.
Yeah. No, give me Clemson. Georgia Tech's got a new coach. They're changing from the triple option offense to a spread offense. I think it's going to be a time. It's going to take some time to get that system in and get the athletes around there. So I think it could be successful in a few years. But give me Clemson. They're obviously the best team in the country for a reason, and I think Trevor Lawrence is going to light them up.
Trying a new offensive style against that nasty Clemson defense is not going to be a great way to open the season. But at least it'll tell you kind of where you're at from a coaching standpoint. But yeah, Clemson,
for sure.
Clemson by 100.
Yeah.
So do you give them the spread on that? It's 59.
No,
59
they're
and a
not.
half.
They're not going to cover.
Yeah, I agree.
They score somewhere in the neighborhood of like they'll score like 56. Like they'll get right there, but they're not going to cover it.
I think it's a function of whether or not they leave. Or I think it's a function of how long Dabo Sweeney leaves in Trevor Lawrence and all the ones. Because if they leave him in, they could run up the clock. They could run up the score on them. But in Georgia Tech's defense, enough credit. Maybe they'll make it. Maybe they'll make it interesting. But I don't think they'll cover either.
Yeah. So you want to get into? You want to talk about your squad, Texas A&M, Texas State at Texas A&M.
I mean, A&M should go out and do their job. I'm not expecting any fireworks in this game. We'll probably just sort of, Jimbo going through the rotations, making sure that everyone is sort of on the same page. I've been watching a lot of all of his interviews between the training camps and sort of each practice, and the biggest thing he's stressing is consistency. He keeps saying things like there are times when the defense will make a good play because the offense messed up, or the offense will make a good play because the defense messed up, and he's like, we want to try to make good plays even if the other side of the ball is also doing well. So the biggest thing he's looking for is consistency, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for here. Just a clean game, no ridiculous turnovers, no nothing crazy, just a sound game top to bottom. But I mean, that's what everyone's looking for week one against I don't want to say nobody, but just a school that is a quote unquote college football preseason game.
Yeah, give me A&M in that one for sure. Also, shout out to all our personal friends that go to Texas State.
Absolutely, I was thinking about that the whole time, and I was like, I can't call them nobodies. They're people.
Yeah,
just in football, they're not really a big deal.
Yeah. Great academic institution, but trash.
100%. Beautiful city.
Yeah, beautiful campus out there in San Marcos.
Nice logo. Great people. So
yeah,
your props to them.
Yeah,
much love to y'all.
Let's talk a little bit about.
I'm gonna get the most aggressive text from Jack. How dare you?
Let's talk a little bit about the Holy War. Number 14 Utah at BYU.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna let you go first on this one because you are much more learned when it comes to these two.
Yeah, give me Utah.
Okay, all right. That's kind of what I was thinking.
It's a big rivalry game, and what they say, throw stats and records out the window when it comes to a rivalry game. But I think Utah is going to be great this year. I think they have a chance to win the Pac-12 South, and I think they're ranked right where they're supposed to be at 14. But yeah, give me Utah on this one.
I think that this is what I call, I don't really have a name for it, but this is sort of, if I had a medal to give, I feel like every week during college football season, there is one game that has no stakes, right? There's no stakes on it. You're not really personally invested in either team, but it's going to be a good game, and it's going to be sort of smaller. And I think this is what that game is going to be. It's just that sort of game to put on, sit down, relax, and be like, oh, that was a good play, and not sort of worry about the major implications. This is my recliner game of the week. I think this is the chillest game you can sit back and watch.
Yeah.
But I think Utah takes it too. I think they take it in a close one. Maybe on it's going to come down to the fourth quarter for sure.
Yeah.
Especially with it being week one, and
it's a rivalry game. Yeah, you get the jitters out.
Yeah. So I'll go late. It's a late kickoff.
And then we're going to get into what we like to call our bottom of the barrel game.
I hope you're ready for this.
Yeah. No disrespect to either of these teams or either of these schools, but our bottom of the barrel game this week is Gardner-Webb versus Charlotte. Gardner-Webb is an FCS team. They went 3-8 in 2018. Charlotte is an FBS team, and they went 5-7 in 2018. Daryl, who you got?
Is that what they did?
Yeah, exactly what they did.
This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, and this is tough. This is truly a tough one. I'm going to go with Charlotte because they could actually decide on one name for their team. As opposed to two abbreviated.
Yeah, fair. Give me Gardner-Webb because I like their mascot name. I think they're called the Running Bulldogs or something like that. And I like their color scheme and their uniforms. So give me Gardner-Webb. Give me.
Coach looks like their coach looks like every drug dealer in a shoot 'em up.
Really?
Charlotte's coach. It looks like he looks like every drug dealer and they're shooting him up.
Yeah.
They have a nice little campus though.
Yeah, no disrespect to Charlotte's coach, but
100%. Wish the guys nothing but the best of luck.
Yeah.
Just trying to make a an entertaining show.
Yeah. Y'all gonna lose to Gardner Webb though.
Shots fired. Is this low key going to become the most heated segment of the show? The bottom of the barrel game.
Yeah. But yeah,
you
man.
freak. Charlotte's going to win.
Yeah.
Give me that. All right.
Yeah.
So bottom of the barrel game. Now we get into the big heavy duty game, the one everyone's talking about of week 0. Florida and Miami.
Yes, sir.
Spencer, tell me why. Tell me why the Gators are going to win. I know that's who you're picking.
They're really good, and they're an SEC team, and Miami can't figure out who they want their quarterback to be, and Tate Martell's there.
Oh, no, they picked one. They
picked one?
They did. They picked...
Is it Tate Martell?
Oh, it's the other boy who, again, I cannot... So there's like 4 quarterbacks that just got named starters in the past month that all start with a J. There's
I think it's Jaron Williams.
Jaron Williams, Justin Fields, who's the boy from Mizzou? Jalen. All these, I can't stand it. But yeah, what was Miami's name again? Juwan Williams? Jaron Williams. I was listening to... So you're picking Florida.
Yeah, give me Florida all day. This is not going to be close at all.
We'll see. Because I'm actually going to go Miami here, and I realize that this is putting myself up to get a swift kick to the groin. But I don't know. I was listening to the situation in Miami, and these guys are very behind this Williams guy. They're saying, and when I say these guys, I mean the team. I mean, it was actually kind of charming. I was listening to the interviews, and they're like, "Man, this guy can ball." I mean, he's making throws, and we were just like, "Wow!" It was really wholesome, actually. But they seem to be really behind him. Tate Martell obviously is a talented kid. If anything goes wrong, they'll have him at backup. Do I think Miami has a realistic chance of beating Florida? Yes. Do I think they will beat Florida? No. Am I picking Miami to beat Florida because stranger things have happened in college football? Yes. When it comes to week 1, you're looking at a Florida team that's coming out. They're really excited, but you're also looking at a Miami team that has nothing to lose. And week 1, when Florida comes out and potentially could be sloppy, a couple things go right, man. Wilder things have happened.
Yeah, I mean, stranger things have happened. Have you heard about the uniforms that Miami is wearing this season?
I think you've shown them to me, but it doesn't come to mind.
They're wearing Adidas uniforms that are, because they're an Adidas school, but they're wearing Adidas uniforms that are made out of all recycled, like, ocean trash. So now the team and the uniforms are going to be the same thing. Trash.
Oh, I thought... Oh... I'm so disappointed. I was Googling this. I was all excited about the environment.
Oh no, I'm serious. They're really wearing uniforms made out of recycled plastic.
I see that now. Yeah. But, and they look nice too, man.
Yeah, they look great, but Florida's winning this game. It's the return of a rivalry that we haven't seen in a little bit, but Florida's winning this game.
I just want to see it happen. What is the spread here? I don't know, dude. The matchup predictor is giving Miami a 26% chance of pulling it out. So
I mean, that's better than 0, but
that thing's always right. It's a 7-point spread, man. I don't know.
They're only giving Florida 7 points.
They're only giving them 7 points, dude. I mean, I'm telling you,
Florida's winning this game.
Well, I'm gonna give you a lukewarm one. Miami's gonna pull it out, and we're gonna come back here next week and be flabbergasted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to get the season started. It's finally the best time of the year.
100%.
Some people say it's Christmas. I disagree with you. It's college football season. It's, college football season is the best.
And all I want is just for A&M to make the playoff. They don't even have to win. They can just make the playoff, and I'd be good for this year.
Yeah, I mean, I want LSU to make the playoff, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's gonna be a fun year, but that Miami game is gonna be interesting. Miami's let me down every time I think they're gonna win. I thought they were gonna be LSU last year, and that did not happen.
Yeah, that did not happen at all.
Actually, I didn't bet on LSU winning. I didn't bet on Miami winning last year. I just bet on that game being filthy because it was Miami. It was the U versus LSU, and you just knew it was going to get. It was very ugly.
Yeah. Also, speaking of Adidas uniforms, Louisville is wearing some alternate uniforms this season. I don't know what game they're going to wear them against, but they're just an all like black and white uniform honoring the ring gear that Muhammad Ali would wear during his boxing career. But their gloves are going to be red to mimic boxing gloves. They're just really a clean looking uniform, clean looking everything. I like them a lot.
Dirty to me, man. Yeah, it is. I mean, these are as clean as can be, and it's one of those things where this is the uniform. They're going to come. When they come out the tunnel, you're just going to be like, just chef kiss. It's going to be amazing. Yeah. But they come back from the half, and it's just going to be green. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're going to look like Christmas trees with the red gloves on.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this. What I like most about this uniform, and I've got the pictures up here. If you're on YouTube, you may be able to see this depending on our technical capabilities. It's the font is very sort of crisp. You've got the nice 150 logo up here. I really like how the helmet only has the outline, and I'm usually not a big fan of whenever a team sort of removes all of their color. But because they have the gloves, I just think it ties it together so nicely.
Yeah.
Just that little subtle, and I'm sure I can't find a very good picture of it here. But I am sure, there's a good picture of the gloves. I'm sure that the shoes are also going to be red, so I'm sure it's a situation where they're going to accent it really nicely.
I think the shoes are going to be black and white just to, and the only thing that's going to be red is the gloves to mimic, boxing gloves, because Muhammad Ali was from Louisville. Rest in peace to Muhammad Ali. I know he died a few years ago. But
was it a few years ago? It might have been like a year ago.
No, it was a few years ago. Because I remember watching the Louisville game before that happened, because it was when Lamar Jackson was still at Louisville.
Oh, okay. So it was. Man, time is flying.
Yeah. It's but yeah, that's
Muhammad Ali for doing all of his things.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest of all time. Providing wonderful sound bites for several motivational videos on YouTube.
Yes, indeed.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Last week I hit the switch, got into bed before the room was dark.
Yeah,
that man's a legend. That man is a legend.
Yeah, he was cocky, but he could back it up, man.
Yeah, and that's the most enticing personality in sports right there. Is when you can back it up.
Yeah. So,
all
right,
very
everybody.
icy uniforms. Yeah, that's about it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's gonna do it. You got anything you wanna let them know before we get out of here?
I'd just like to say that we're not professionals.
Yeah.
we all of our opinions here are far from it. I mean, I forgot half the names of these. And it's funny, Spencer. I've been like prepping kind of like the past 48 hours, just listening to like ESPN and them talk about college football, and they know all these names, and I'm like, God, I think I know the name of so and so. Like, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. The coach of Georgia is Lane Kiffin, is it not?
Lane Kiffin is at FAU. It's Kirby Smart, coach of Georgia.
It's Kirby Smart. See, I know, but it's one of it's Saban's under. It's a Saban descendant. Yeah, and that's why I get it mixed up. But I knew it was. Yeah, I knew it was like that. So yeah, I mean, just things like not knowing which particular coach it is, or which particular player we're talking about, which quarterback. So yeah, we're not professionals. I'm trying. And I know Spencer is too, just to sort of study up a little bit. That way we kind of have our facts straight. But we're going to get improved every week. This is our first time ever doing, not only is this our first time ever doing a college football podcast, this is our first time doing a podcast. So we have a lot to learn.
Listen to a conversation between two friends that, are not experts in what they're talking about. Just something to have fun with. So, but yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's going to do it for us. Right now our content's mainly going to be on YouTube, and we also have the Facebook page. So look up the Gameday Breakfast Podcast on Facebook and on YouTube currently. I'm going
to try to break into Spotify at some point too.
Yeah, we're going to try to get on Spotify and other hosting platforms. But just look up the page and, tell us who your favorite college football team is, what your predictions are about this season. Maybe a team you don't like.
Was one of us ridiculously wrong? Let us know in the comments. We don't mind
Yeah.
if you get mad at us because
Yeah.
hey, comments are good.
Yeah. Tell me how wrong I am about everything.
Tell me how wrong I am. Prove me wrong.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's gonna about do it